And I'm here with Kim Peterson, who is a personal brand expert and stylist. And I was a former client of Kim's, and now we're friends. And we're here to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. We live in an age where there's so many people shouting and making noise, and there is a temptation to disappear, to withdraw, to become invisible. So one of Kim's first tasks, while on some upper level, you might think she's here to tell you what clothes to wear. What she's really here to tell you is how to become visible. So Kim, when you start working with a client and you want to bring them to visible, how do you start?
It is a great question, Bob, because oftentimes people are perceiving themselves as invisible, or they're not getting seen, or they're not getting heard, mainly because they're not speaking up. They're not finding their voice, raising their hand, leaning into conversations. And so before we go too far into anything, I'm asking clients to really consciously connect to the truth of who they are, to the truth of, their message, or to the truth of what's going on for them. Because it's when you consciously connect to your values, it's when you get sustainable confidence to find your voice, to speak up. And then, of course, there still may be some obstacles to getting heard, and we can talk a little bit about that if that's relevant.
One of the things that I think makes people not speak up is because they're not just intimidated, but there's also this thing, the imposter syndrome. They're trying to be someone who they're not. Mm-hmm. And I imagine when somebody comes to you and says, just tell me, what color should I wear?
Right.
Your first question is, this is not about colors. Talk about the truth of who you are. So how do you get someone out of that imposter syndrome and into that truth?
Oh, I love that. I love that you're talking about the imposter syndrome, because really my goal is to help people step into their authentic self, right? You're going to be your best you when you are your most authentic you. And a friend of mine just said that the other day as well. So what I do through our authentic personal brand building process is I ask you in step one, again, consciously connect to your vision, your values. What's really important to you? What are you willing to fight for? Your authentic personality, your skills, your talents, your abilities. Let's discover and unearth and mine the truth of who you are, so that we can uniquely package yourself authentically in the marketplace for differentiation, so you can get heard and seen for all the right reasons. So while I do work with people to style them and help them with best colors and shapes and styles, best dress their body, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the way that we're dressing you is a reflection of and a reminder of your skills and your talents and your abilities. Is that helpful?
So yeah, sure. So Kim did this for me once, and she won't say this, I will. I was pretty hard to work with.
You were?
Let's just say,
I don't remember.
You blocked it out. From a style standpoint, she was working in negative numbers is how things began.
Oh boy.
But I went from working for a big media company, now I work for myself. I'm a member of the gig economy, like so many people are, and where personal branding is absolutely essential. Mm-hmm. And as a journalist, and it's just like many people, you're brought up to think worrying about clothes is shallow. Worrying about how you look is it's about who you are. But that's not true. I'm a business person now, and how I present myself is incredibly important. So what do you say to people who are in the gig economy now, and where personal branding is now so much more important than it used to be?
Sure. Personal branding is so much more important. As a matter of fact, I just held a speaking engagement for CEOs, and I quoted Greg Lopez, who is a personal brand consultant, and he said, everybody, that personal branding is a leadership requirement. It is a leadership requirement, and that research actually indicates that those who hone and define and harness their personal brand actually achieve greater levels of success and promotion much more quickly. And so the thing that you would want to know is that this is not about fake it till you make it, at least not with Uniquely Savvy's approach. It's really about a self-discovery, which will, in the end, help you harness your personal brand for success, influence, and promotion much more quickly. And at the same time, it's also a beautiful, I'm just going to say it, folks, it's a beautiful self-discovery. It's a beautiful affirmation of who you are. And what happens from that is you're better able to lead with your strengths. You're better able to speak with more confidence. You're better able to make a bigger impact. So go ahead.
Is there an example that you can think of off the top of your head,
Sure.
without divulging that it's about a journalist who didn't know what size clothes to wear, of somebody who you met who was just doing it wrong, and you gave them, one or two tips that just sort of like opened up their heart, opened up their confidence? So just
Oh gosh.
recent client, yeah.
Yeah, I'll share, and I won't share her name, although she's shared publicly. Is I worked with this gal who grew up without her mom. She was raised by her dad, so she really didn't know how to dress her body or have any sense of style whatsoever. She is a professional woman. She went through the personal branding and style process with me, whereby she really owned her unique genius. First, folks, it's up here. It's about a mindset. Owning your unique genius, discovering your talents, then speaking and articulating your value in the marketplace. And then it's about dressing you to align so that you're a total package. And we went through this whole process with her, and she had an increase of confidence, absolutely. She said, my confidence has increased. She feels like she can take on the world. Her business, more importantly, had a 40% increase. Revenue increase in that year, and she said she saved time and of course money in the process. And good for her. She said, I'm going to own my brand again next year and see what I can do. She had a subsequent year of a 40% increase in revenue.
That's great. Let me ask the prickly question. What percentage of her clothes did you throw out when you walked into her closet?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's an honest question. We recycled and donated quite a bit, because here's why, folks, is because in this discovery process, what we do is we look at, again, who you are, what you want to represent, and how your wardrobe is aligning.
All of my clothes, by the way, got recycled when we did
Really,
this.
all of them?
You actually literally picked up one shirt and said, we can work with this.
I was going to say, was there not one shirt hanging?
And you're obviously doing that to be nice.
Well, you had to wear something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But here's what happens, folks, is we know that first impressions, right? Research indicates that first impressions, 93% of a first impression is based on your body language and your appearance in a first-time face-to-face interaction. So when you walk into a room, when you walk onto stage, when you walk before the camera for media, people are already making very critical decisions about who they think you are based on the nonverbals, to include your wardrobe and your appearance. So in this process, really, we're looking at who you are and the strengths of who you are and what you want to lead with. And then we're making sure that these visual clues are in alignment. And if they're not, we would recycle it. But the beautiful thing about it is when people come to work with me, they're on board. This is something they want. It's an investment in themselves and in their career. And so by the time we get into the closet, we've got a solid foundation of best practices. And so it makes it seamless. And we have a strategy to implement for greater effectiveness.
Okay, so just for exercise purposes, you probably don't remember, it was so traumatic working with me, but there was something wrong with the way that I was projecting myself, and there probably is something wrong with the way I'm projecting myself right now. So what would you say to me? Would you recall what you said to me to straighten me out?
Bob Sullivan. Wow, tisk tisk. I did not know that this would be a question. But honestly, I don't remember. What I do know about you is that you are well versed, you are experienced, you have a lot of knowledge, you are working through the red tape, so to speak, in what you do as a journalist. And so what we wanted to do was to ensure that even the ties, because you were wearing some ties back then.
I had a Jerry Garcia tie I really liked.
And did we purge it?
I actually took it out of the recycling bin, but I haven't worn it. But the pattern is cool.
It is cool. And it's cool for probably a certain venue, right? But we can use that if we can for an example, that if we did purge that tie, it was because it wasn't aligning and communicating the message on air that you wanted, and so then we purged it. So we went and we got a few new ties. We got some better fitting dress shirts to fit your frame, because even you gents have different body proportions. Some are, T-bodied, some are, A-bodied in your shoulders, and so we took all that into consideration. Got you great colors that were saturated for your coloring and that would read well on air. And one of the things we did is we really just eliminated any quote-unquote distractions for your on-air presence.
Yeah, and we were just talking about that in terms of television too. When you set up a camera shot, you want to make sure there's no distracting words in the background or patterns or bad lighting or any of that. So eliminating distractions, again, not to be vain, but just to make sure that nothing gets in the way of the message that you're trying to communicate, which is what this is all about. So is anybody who wants to ask any questions, we can ask questions. If you want to ask for advice, here's a moment to get some great free advice.
Great free advice.
Yeah. But here's back to the nut of this entire discussion. I think there's probably a moment in almost anyone you work with, I know it happened with me, where you try to put me in something that I think is just bold and loud and out there. And I'm like, well, no, wait a minute. No, that's too much. I'm not that, I don't want to be out there that much. I was a little comfortable being invisible. So,
you were.
Well, we all are, right? In the end, it's a big risk to put yourself out there in a big way, just like it's a big risk to raise your hand, to lean in, and it's a big risk, I'm sure, for women to wear loud colors. It's a big risk for men to wear confident, expensive suits.
Right.
And there's that sort of self-conscious moment. What do you tell people when they say, no, I couldn't do that?
Right. Well, what's really important for my business and the way that I work with clients is to listen first. So I am really championing you as my client. I am your advocate. So I will show you some new ideas to help you pique your curiosity about what's possible. If you are telling me, no, I can't do that, I don't want to do that, hey, that's fine. I might just invite you to try that on so you can see yourself in a new light and see how you're feeling, how that's reading, how maybe that bold color is actually speaking for you, that brand attribute of vibrant and energetic, so to speak. Then if that's not something that you want, great, take it off and we're moving on, because it's so important. Listen, folks, whether it's you in business or in life or in relationship, if you want to be more visible, the very best advice I could give you is to be comfortable and confident in your own skin. And in order to do that, you have to own you. You can't allow somebody else to tell you what to wear and how to speak. We can guide you and we can champion you in that process, but it's really about, my job is really about helping you to unearth that and connect all those dots so that this is the most confident, authentic version of you.
And if you nudge a little along the way, really, you could try this.
A little nudging is great, because that's part of my job. But here's what else I want you to know, and what I want you to know, and maybe you can even speak to this, is when you begin to step into your more confident self, and when you put on the dress that really looks like you, and you wear the suit that says, approachable but authoritative, and you're starting to feel more confident, and people are starting to receive your leadership and your influence more, you're going to shift. The truth of who you are is going to start to shift, and you're going to really begin to own more of that truth. And what happens when you shift up here, folks, then you're going to be willing, test me on this, and you speak to this if you will, but then you'll be more willing to take more risks stylistically.
Sure.
And the color that, oh no, I would never wear that before might just become your favorite color, 6 months out. And so that's the beauty. I want to say that's the beauty of authentic personal branding, is you are constantly affirming the strength and the truth of who you are, and then you get to evolve, and you get to step into heightened levels of who you are and your potential.
Sure. We all learn things when we're kids that are wrong, right? You get some label attached to you. I'm a youngest sibling, so your siblings all say, this is who you are. And it's wrong, but we often accept that and just swallow it as if it's really true.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody said you should never wear orange
Right.
when you were 9, and you take that to your grave with you, and somebody else to nudge you and push you to try something new is important. There's a question from Denise who asked, what's the biggest challenge? Is it clothes? Is it makeup? Is it the whole thing when you're dealing with a woman and stylist? What's the biggest challenge?
When I'm dealing with a woman?
Mm-hmm.
Denise, that is a great question, and it's a bold question, actually, because the biggest challenge, and I've been thinking about this recently, but the biggest challenge is actually the psychology. It's actually the psychology of your own self-concept, right? Of believing that, number one, first and foremost, that you're worthy. That you're.
I completely agree with you. Most people don't feel worthy.
Yeah.
And just that notion that I'm worth something, like the air I breathe on this planet is as important as everybody else's
Yes.
air. And like, I am here, this is my space, that's really important.
It's really important. And so, and it's true, and we'll get to the style piece here, but really that's the biggest hurdle, is to say I'm worthy of investing in myself. And
Gosh, I remember the first time you had me go to Nordstrom and you pulled a $400 jacket
no,
off
I
the rack.
didn't. Don't scare these people. Did I really?
You did, and you saw my look on my face and you put it right back.
Yes.
But, and I'm a frugal person, I write about money, so of course that's true, but at the same time, you immediately made me think, why... You should be asking the question all the time, am I worth it? If I buy this thing and it's lasts me for 10 years, then it is worth that money and I'm worth the investment.
You're worth the investment,
Yeah.
and think about cost per wear. Cost per wear. I mean, I have things in my closet that have more than paid for themselves. Expensive ticket up front, perhaps, but the investment was there. But let me quickly get back to the psychology of being worthy. I'm worthy of investing. I'm worthy of even pausing, first of all, to consciously connect to what is my value and what are my values and what are my skills that I bring to the table. When you, Denise, can get connected to that and you can own that, then you're going to start to believe that there's merit and that you are worthy to dress that, because what's going to happen is you're going to show up in your more confident, effective self, if that makes sense. And then beyond that, and that also looks toward, body shape. For women, being okay in our own skin. Myself, I'll tell you, because most of you don't know me and you don't know my story, but I was, ugly duckling, never comfortable or confident in my own skin, always judged and teased, didn't belong. So I had a lot of mindset to overcome. To get confident and comfortable in my own skin. But no matter if you have curves, no matter if you have, dark skin, light skin, yellow skin, believing that your body is enough just as it is, and to dress to celebrate that body shape.
Mm-hmm.
So for women and for men, I will say there's an increase, Bob, by the way, on male body shaming and
anorexia. Yeah.
It's really that. And so beyond that, then I think the most important thing is after you really figure out that you're worthy, then it's figure out how to dress your unique body and your skills and your talents. Dress your truth. So I'm wearing bold because I'll just use these as an example. I'm wearing a bold color because I am vibrant and energetic in my personality, and yet I like to wear a lot of black. So I'm using the use of color to help communicate that, right? Accessories are fun and playful. That's really good for me because I have a lot of male energy and I'm very serious. So when I can use, fun earrings or jewelry to help me be a little bit more fun and playful, it helps to balance that type A energy. Does that make sense?
Well, and I think that addresses the question that's on the board here, and I'm sorry I can't quite read whose name it is, but the question is, do you think it can be overpowering sometimes if you wear bold colors and loud and confident? Is that a risk? I think it's a good question.
It's a great risk. Yeah. Listen, what's true is if you don't manage anything that is an asset, it becomes a what? A deficit.
Yeah.
It becomes a deficit. So absolutely. So I always say this, be tailored to the task and be tailored to your audience. Right? Mm-hmm. And then also, before you get dressed, ask yourself, what do you want this audience to know about you? So you might be wearing way too loud of a color, way too many accessories, and by the way, you've had 5 cups of coffee, so your energy is explosive too. The total package, again, the total package of that brand experience is a little bit much, right? So before you get dressed, always ask yourself, who is my audience, what do I want them to know about me, and what is my brand? And then get dressed according to those answers, and then look in that full-length mirror and then see if there's alignment. Does the language of your visual look reflect the right answers to those questions?
Okay, so we've already been taking a lot of Kim's time up, and we both have to go somewhere, but I want to leave folks with a really direct question. Again, personal branding is so important in the age of the gig economy and so many people working for themselves and having to think about this. So are there 2 or 3 things that you would just say, bold headlines, you work for yourself now, what should you worry about?
Yes, great question. So if you work for yourself, you should do research and worry about personal branding. I know you've heard it as a lot of, a buzz phrase, but it is the thing that, here's the big idea. The big idea is this, Bob, is when you own your unique genius and you harness your authentic personal brand, it is the compass for you to achieve greater success, influence, promotion, and leadership. So number 1, hone your personal brand. Number 2, hone your positioning statement, right? So once you are sure about the value that you bring, what you represent, then you want to have clarity in how to speak about that. You want to be clear, consistent, and effective in your positioning statement. And then 3, and I would say most important actually, is be you. Be uniquely you. Be uniquely savvy. Stay authentic. Don't fake it till you make it. And especially to come back to your question about how do you go from invisible to visible, your safety net is to be your best authentic self. Right?
I think that's great. Well, let's leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. If you have more questions, you can contact me directly, and I'll get them to Kim, and we'll try to answer them that way. Thanks again.
Bye.